Hello movie interns, I am the Movie Doctor, and today our case study will be on Daredevil. And like all good doctors, the first thing we should look at before blindly jumping in is our patient's history. Daredevil began his life as a comic book character in 1964 from the creative minds of comic greats such as Stan Lee and Bill Everett. As time went on, The Man Without Fear was written by many iconic names in the world of graphic novels, including Kevin Smith and Frank Miller. And while being a darker character, especially in later incarnations, Daredevil always seemed to be one of Marvel's cream-of-the-crop good guys. So when studios began snatching up big-name superheroes during the late 1990s, Daredevil was an obvious choice. Unfortunately, the Horned One wouldn't actually get out of pre-production hell until the year 2000, when New Regency picked up the rights and finally ran with it. Now, by this time, big hero movies were being pumped out left and right. Spider-Man, X-Men, and Blade had already shown Marvel to be a huge powerhouse in Hollywood. So Daredevil would easily catch the same wave, right? Well, sorta. But let's get into the movie and see where things might not have completely worked out just right for our crimson-suited friend. So we open with a nice, long, establishing... Jesus! Hey! Jeez! What the hell, movie? What's with the Catholic Church having so much post-traumatic stress? Or should I say, Pope-traumatic stress? Oh, come on! I've been waiting weeks to do that one. Come on, interns, get back here. Anyway, after a somewhat ironic first reveal of Daredevil on top of a church, we learn that our hero isn't doing too well. The spice must flow. Not you.
They say your whole life flashes before your eyes when you die. And it's true. Even for a blind man.
No, that's just your career, Ben. And just like any other superhero story, we begin our origin story spoon-feeding session. Luckily, it isn't the whole movie, but to make it go quicker, I'll just give you the highlights. Daredevil began a life as a mild-mannered kid with a penchant for big boy hairstyles and getting beat up. His real name was Matt Murdock. His father, Jack the Devil Murdock, was a washed-up boxer who could have been a contender. One day, Matt decides to take a shortcut home from school and ends up getting superhero juice poured directly into his eyes. You know, strength, speed, and spider senses aren't really the only powers that these accidents ever give heroes. They also seem to cure average stupidity and human clumsiness. Matt wakes up in the middle of a sweet rave party in his head. Because even though he can no longer see, every other sense seems to be heightened to almost superhuman proportions. Well, that makes sense. It wasn't hazardous waste that spilled. It was just about 3 gallons of pure LSD. Realizing that he now has stronger senses, Matt begins to train himself in martial arts, while his father goes back to boxing. But the bad guys, not wanting to have a good cliché go to waste, decides to kill Matt's father after he refuses to throw a fight. Hey boss, we're dancing with the devil under the pale moonlight. But seriously, all reference jokes aside, this is where we see Matt go from innocent boy to crime-fighting vigilante.
Nobody but me.
Which makes sense for the most part, unless you factor in that instead of immediately going out to find his father's killer, he grows up to be blind Ben Affleck instead. That coffin thing he's crawling out of is actually a sensory deprivation chamber, which is usually used for interrogations. But for Matt, it actually acts as a better way to get some sleep than just putting a pillow over your head. We catch a glimpse of his morning routine as he readies himself for another day in his job.
Ladies and gentlemen, justice is blind.
Oh God, not the blind speech again. So in normal life, Matt's a lawyer who tries to stick up for those who can't defend themselves. Sometimes he even uses his acute senses to his advantage to try and catch people from lying. Problem is, no one really knows about his powers, so that kind of plan must fail a lot in the courtroom.
I got work to do.
No problem there, though. Let me just put on my evening attire, make sure my blind cane is equipped with the best in Swiss Army technology, and I will show this rapist what true justice can do. Daredevil, master of destroying public property and making sure window washers everywhere are brought to justice. Now, to be honest, the costumes, the weapons, and the way Daredevil moves through the streets of Hell's Kitchen is pretty accurate, if not superfluous at times. The fluidity that he performs his jumps borders on Olympic gymnast quality. What I don't get, then, is the next scene.
Yeah, he's for real. What do you want?
Justice.
Alright, one, cheesy one-liners I will grant you, as you are a leather-wearing superhero. But why break into a bar full of people to get after one guy whom you could have clearly waited for to leave before busting the whole place up? This sort of thinking puts Daredevil in the category of simple barroom brawler. I mean, yes, a lot of patrons have guns, but what did they do to you? Did you just wait for all your rapists and murderers you lost trials over to be in one location so you could dispatch all of them? And what's with the jump cut vision? Daredevil is a superhero who relies on sonar, sense of touch, his own proprioception, to be in the right place at the right time. We should be seeing continuous shots, not some shoddy B-movie director shit. So the guy he was originally after makes it to the subway, where the sounds of the train throw off Daredevil's sonar. Convenient. And why didn't the bullets being fired off from multiple guns do the same thing in the previous scene? Daredevil catches his baddie, and instead of bringing him to the police, he does what many heroes won't.
That's the C-Train!
Murder by subway.
Hey, you can't go past there.
Here we meet Ben Urich, an investigative journalist who really doesn't matter in the movie at all. Seriously, the only reason I think they put him in is because they needed padding, and to better sell the movie with his 2D glasses. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be throwing so many puns around. It's beneath me, it's overdone, and I really should be giving this movie the respect it deserves. Matt makes it back to his lair, where we see how it isn't all roses being able to hear, smell, and feel everything. To further dull his torment, he constantly takes different pain medications, usually reserved for those in moderate to severe pain. Not to mention, those pills can really stop you up. The next day, Matt visits the previously shown church, where Father Everett tells him that what Daredevil is doing isn't all right.
May God have mercy on you, forgive you your sins, and grant you everlasting.
But in the very next breath, forgives the murderer, hero, and tries to make light of Matt's choice in costume.
I'm not too crazy about the outfit either.
Good to know that the Catholic Church supports Daredevil's lethal intentions. So as Matt and Frank, his partner-in-law, are enjoying their morning tea, Matt's heightened smell picks up the love interest of the movie. If you can call it that. This is Elektra, played by the always lovely Jennifer Garner. Matt is immediately enamored by her smell. Or maybe her choice of soundtrack. I'm not really sure, but it is a bit creepy to say the least. Matt decides to follow her to a small park. Again, kinda creepy, and Elektra tries to tell him in the nicest way that she doesn't like being followed or touched.
Mr. Anderson, we are here because of you, Mr. Anderson. We are here to take from you what you took from us. Purpose.
My name's Electra Nachos.
Electric nachos? Now that that's been cleared up for us, we meet our main villain of the film, Wilson Fisk, and another of the Nachos clan, Nicholas, Electra's father.
I'm getting out, Wilson. No.
A businessman who is trying to get Fisk to buy him out, because the tabloids seem to be getting too close to their crime syndicate, and he doesn't want to be a part of that, I guess. And Fisk, being the honorable and shrewd businessman that he is...
How's your daughter?
Hey, wait. That's my line. I do the funny segues around here. Whatever. Since that was going nowhere, we meet back up with Jennifer and Ben as they discuss... Hey, what the hell, movie? What's with the unnecessary jumps? We could have had 2 smooth scenes focusing on each side, but instead we get this garbled mess? I'm watching you, movie. So Fisk tells his Richard Gere wannabe assistant here to make it seem like Nicholas is the kingpin with a paper trail. Then kill him. Yeah, you heard me. Fisk wants to kill the only one mentioned who could be seen as the kingpin of the underground besides himself. Which goes to show that his goofy stance and his asshole smile are about the only thing Fisk has going for him. Fisk also hires a hitman called Bullseye, played by Colin Farrell, who is seen here doing what the Irish assassin does best, throwing office supplies at people's windpipes. He's so cute and lovable. Speaking of love, Matt runs into Elektra a second time, and decides to take her to his special place. Oh great, another rooftop.
What's this?
That's second base, which you're not at yet. Yeah, so the love interest doesn't really play well in such a dark movie like this, and kinda looks thrown in last minute in many ways. I mean, Jennifer Garner is fine at playing a movie version of the comic book antihero, but she really isn't necessary. Her role and presence makes the middle of the movie seem like just another boring love story. It would have played much better if they made her more of a conflicting subplot for Daredevil to have romantic interests in, instead of making Matt put her on such a high love pedestal from the beginning. But that's just my 2 cents. So we find Matt and his partner Frank at a party. Why were they originally invited? I don't know, something to do with Elektra giving a formal invitation after their first playground brawl. Ben Urich is there again, being pointless again, and we learn that Tuxedo Fisk here likes to use roses to say goodbye to those he kills. But Nicholas knows better than to just sit around. He decides to leave while Elektra follows, leaving a slightly confused Matt behind. Then Bullseye shows up and crashes the limo the Nachos were in. And Daredevil is here to make sure the assassin doesn't get his kill. After a chain of impossibly convenient events, Bullseye is able to use Daredevil's own Swiss Billy Club to kill Nicholas. And make a hasty retreat. Hey, wait! Why are you firing on Daredevil? Okay, Elektra, I'm gonna get a little nitpicky here. It clearly showed you turn your head and watch the Billy Club's trajectory, which means you had to have seen the initial throw from Bullseye, not Daredevil. Because of this, you are now emotionally blinded, and will more than likely throw a temper tantrum the minute you get a chance. I no longer appreciate your character in this movie, Elektra. Matt meets Elektra later at her father's funeral, and she promptly dumps him to pursue her new love, revenge. Bullseye meets Fisk in his office and gets a new mission: kill Elektra. He agrees, but not before he gets his own costume.
I want a bloody costume.
Ben Urich shows up and tells Matt that Elektra may be in trouble.
I thought you might know somebody that could protect her.
Huh. Ben was actually useful. I stand corrected, movie. Then the ever-popular training montage begins to the sounds of Evanescence, as we see Elektra beating up on some poor defenseless sandbags she brutally left hanging from strings. Daredevil does his best to mimic her by doing his best suit-up routine since his last one? So Daredevil goes out looking for Bullseye, but runs into Elektra instead.
Remember me?
She makes short work of our hero and stabs him in a rather convenient spot. Once Elektra takes his mask off, she immediately becomes a quivering mess of apologies and puppy sobs, while Matt tries to warn her of the danger that she's in. But Bullseye comes in and, hey, wait, where's his costume? Seriously? The target is all we get? What, did they run out of material halfway through making Elektra's costume? Fine. Bullseye then stabs Elektra and runs away, letting Daredevil mourn before the cops show up. And we finally catch up to the beginning of the movie.
And you. Oh my god, oh my god.
But I will admit, at least it wasn't all a big dream sequence. Bullseye shows up again and challenges Daredevil to one-on-one. Now this is what most fans like to see. Sure, the Mook fight scenes are pretty cool, but when there is a build-up between the two big Wait a minute. There really wasn't a build-up to these two characters at all, was there? In fact, I can only remember 2 previous scenes they're both in together. Before this, Daredevil's main drive was to find the Kingpin, who was clearly Fisk. And let's not mince words here, even a blind man could see that. While Bullseye just kinda built up a grudge with our hero when he made him miss. That's it. Sure, Daredevil's love interest did die at Bullseye's hands, but at the behest of the Kingpin. Suffice it to say, the build-up between these two could have been much better, especially having such a rich history of run-ins in the comic series. Daredevil finishes Bullseye by throwing him out the window.
Bullseye.
What kind of a lame quip was that? What about, he should have used a seatbelt? Or, at least he didn't miss. At least I wasn't using the same line over again. Alright, so now the final showdown can begin. Daredevil versus Kingpin, no holds barred. Oh, well that was quick. Well, the only thing that will save Daredevil now is some Deus Ex event.
This for too long.
Ah, damn it, I hate it when I'm right. But before Matt gets a chance to kill Fisk, he decides to take mercy on the Burger Kingpin and tells him to enjoy prison. And having fulfilled his vow, he gives his father one last nod of appreciation.
This is for you, Dad.
So that was Daredevil. And what's my diagnosis? Coulda used some work. Daredevil sets out to be one of the darker releases of the Marvel Universe with its gritty set pieces and blur-the-lines kind of hero. But instead, we get this over-cliched, underdeveloped mishmash of 2 different movies that seem to play together for the same effect. If they had stuck to the love side, that would have been fine. But if they stuck to the darker aspect of Daredevil, then the movie could have reached heights reserved for more recent movies, like Dark Knight. This doesn't mean that the movie was all bad, though. Ben Affleck was a great pick for Daredevil, as was Michael Clark Duncan for the Kingpin. And even though I griped about it a little earlier, I love the way that they did the origin portion of the story, making it a smaller part instead of making it the whole movie that way. On the flip side, the flaws were hard to miss. The computer-generated effects could have been leaps and bounds better, as we had already seen for previous movies. And the fight scenes were poorly executed, if not sluggish and underdeveloped. The sound editing was just horrible for such a movie which relied heavily on sound so that the main character could even function, and some of the cheesiness was just not needed in this. For my cringe factor, this one doesn't even break the horrid numbers, and it sits at a pretty 4 out of 10. It will continue to sit in mediocrity as one of those Marvel movies that could have been, but never did what it was set out to do. But it is worth a look, especially if you are a fan of Frank Miller's days at the helm of this masked crusader. Now, as a follow-up, there is an extended cut out there of this movie, which adds about 30 minutes of subplot and deleted scenes. And it has been hailed as the exact remedy this movie needed. And if you can get your hands on a copy, please do, because I hear it makes the movie work so much better. Well, that wraps up another one, movie interns. I am your movie doctor, and I'll see you in the exam room. No matter what, I'm there for you. Never giving up, you know Not Pikachu!